Hello, this is John Speelman with my latest edition, the latest edition of my chess space column, number 181 apparently. And I'm just going to check that it is working. We are recording as we are. So I've called it Battles with Basman. I was very sorry to hear that Michael Basman died a week or so ago on October the 26th. He was a lovely man and very eccentric, but I think eccentric both as a person and as a chess player. And one point I made first in this column is that it's fantastic that in the chess world we do generally look after eccentrics, talented eccentrics especially. It's a relatively safe space for people to be, to do their own thing. And we're not very judgmental normally, which is great. I was thinking partly about the Neiman case, which of course we got an eccentric person who there is a problem with at the moment. But generally, eccentricity is, if you can play chess, that's the important thing. And that's the thing we look at most. So Basman, born in 1946, and apparently the singer Cleo Lane, the very well-known singer, was a friend of the family, and he was his babysitter when he was little. And I've read some obituaries. I didn't put them in this column. I think he studied at Leeds, did it say? And he eventually became a chess player. He started off fairly orthodox because, well, chess was orthodox. I pointed out that in the 1950s, when Bronstein was playing the King's Indian in the 1950s, this was a sensation. It wasn't known that people could do such things. Leave a weak pawn on d6, as he did. So chess was quite orthodox, and Basman started off playing quite orthodox chess, but gradually he developed. I think that he was a really good positional player and calculated really well, but the thing he hated was having his king attacked, as far as I can tell. And that informed his choice of these openings, like the Borg and the Grob, one g4 and the Borg, which is the Grob reversed, in which he left his king in the centre behind a wall of pawns, because if you don't castle, they can't play bishop h7 check or bishop h2 check or knight takes g2 or something, because he ain't there. So what I've done, I've got some games of his, and I'm starting I know there was a column here in Chess Space a couple of weeks ago with a couple of games. My glorious loss to him against the Borg and Ulf Andersson's defeat in what they've called the Great Waiting Game. On paper I've said something slightly ruder, but basically it is the game, the great wind-up game in chess history, I think. And winding up was what Lasker did. It's what I do quite a lot when I can't do something positive myself. I wind them up and hope that they'll get excited, and that then I can do something unpleasant to them. And Basman in this game, what happened was, it's against Ulf, who of course 1974, and Ulf is the chess player who most hates weakening himself. And so, okay, b6 is a mild provocation, but okay, he didn't go e4, of course. I think d5 Basman would never have done in his later years, I think. They got to this position, which is a Queen's Indian position. Apparently knight fd7 is playable, and if queen a4 you can take and play knight e4. I have no idea how playable that is. I didn't investigate, I just noticed that there were some games. Basman went h6 first, which stops bishop g5. Then he went a6. And then he went rook a7 to protect his bishop. He's probably threatened to take on c4 now to sort of free himself. And Ulf took. I don't know if knight takes is playable. It must be a playable move if you want to. Queen b3. So, in principle, in classical terms, you would like to play c5 in this position in order to get your boys out. But I think, well, maybe knight a4 even is a problem, and just pawn takes rook fd1 is definitely very unpleasant, and bishop takes knight a4 is also unpleasant. So Basman thought, oh dear, I can't do anything, I better wait a bit and see what happens. And he went bishop a8, which makes sense. It gets the bishop off the line of the queen. There might be some line in which it was en prise. And then he went king h7. He realised he couldn't do anything. And king g8. And Ulf did that. And now Ulf has to do something. You can't just win by doing absolutely nothing. So Ulf played the first move, and I imagine he hated playing this move. Maybe not. Maybe he didn't mind it. I know, say Keith Arkle, who says g4 is his favourite move, but he doesn't like to play it and move whatever this is, a16. He likes to play it and move 53 or something. So Ulf makes a tiny weakness. Gets his bishop out of the way. Plays a3, which is bound to be useful. And finally plays f4. So he's weakened e4, but he's starting a kingside attack. I believe that the engine's quite like h4 in this position. But I mean, all right. I think if I ask an engine, I'm going to ask Master Stockfish for a moment. Oh God, this is... Sorry. I believe that it says that h4 is a good move, yeah. Okay. And let's just kill the engine. We really don't need an engine on. This isn't about... So, and he went there, and he was provoked now into playing f5, which he must not have liked doing either. I don't know if he could have... I suspect... I don't like f5 very much. Queen d8, what a surprise. Bishop f4, bishop b7, still waiting, rook to there, c6. So at some point he feels he needs to do something. That's quite a big concession. Somewhere around bishop f3, knight h7. Now knight a4 would have been a very good move at this moment, precisely, because you can't play knight bd7, and if you play b5, knight c5, then you've got some glorious dark squares, and Ulf would have been so happy to have something to bite on finally. And probably if he'd done this, well, it would have been very tough for Basman, I think, because now you're starting to get into the realms of white actually has some purchase on the queen side. And if you don't take the knight, you can maybe go knight back to d3 and then start to prepare your kingside attack. And it feels fairly grim. But he went rook c1 first, and now bishop d6 is a very good move, and now suddenly you have bishop c7. And now black is fighting. I mean, probably it is still much better for white, but in practice this position has become a right mess. Not sure if that's a very good idea. h4, another move Ulf would like not to play. I don't know if takes, if he intended to take back with a pawn, or maybe even with the king, and then to get the king out of the way. I imagine with the pawn. But actually, yeah, all right. There's pressure on b6 still. Rook e8, king to there. Now he took. It's really gone very wrong, this. Queen e7 here, b5, knight c5. He wants to free his pieces now, Basman. He could have just taken, but he went here. So now I think at this point you really ought to play h5 to protect your pawn phalanx. And it's a little bit dangerous, but the game continues. And I think you're just about okay here. Because there's no way black can actually attack the pawn phalanx, which is important. I mean, it's not very pleasant, but I think it's all right for white still, just about. Let me ask its Sublime Majesty what it thinks. I think it might say equal still. It still says equal, yeah. Okay. Thank you, Your Majesty. We genuflect suitably to your... But he went queen d3, and now h5 happened. And suddenly this position has got really critical, because you can't play g5, because if you play g5 question mark, 2 question marks really, question mark, take, I don't know, recapture somehow here is the end of the game. So g5, 2 question marks, really. That would be horrific. So, it's all gone pretty wrong at this point, I think. I don't know, I'm just going to check whether the engine thinks you can fight after that. I don't think so. Looks to me like a disaster. Catastrophe total, yeah. Don't know why I should just ignore it. That's my feeling. So, G takes h5. Takes, king g3 was still playable if unpleasant, it says. So now it's getting worse. He's getting this pawn back. Really unpleasant. Here Basman made a mistake actually. He could just have gone a5 to clean his pawns up. But he actually went c5, which looks very good, but the problem is that after pawn takes d4, queen d2, queen f5, you have king f2, exclam. And now queen h3, rook h1 is just bad because the d4 pawn goes. So actually you have to go queen back to f6 or something, and the game may be about equal. I mean, you perhaps wouldn't play. Well, you can go there, queen f6. So you should go queen f6 and presumably king g3 equals. I think it's still equal. Okay, so what happened though was that he went here. He didn't even bother to take the rook. I mean, taking the rook would certainly win. He went bishop g4, exclam, which was even stronger than taking the rook. And by this stage, white is completely dead, really. He's just being splatted. There's a threat of queen h2 check, I think. He went there, check here, takes here, check here. And here he resigned. After rook f3, you can just take bishop h3, rook f3, queen g4 check, rook takes. I mean, obviously. So this wins completely, but actually it's even cleaner to go here, rook checks here, mate. So a brilliant piece of provocation by Basman, which is what I've said, isn't it? Fantastic game. I mean, you couldn't possibly play this against a computer, but the cyberpunk might play it against you. I know cyberpunk is completely different. And yeah, I mean, here we are. Nobody has ever done that to Wolf apart from Basman, as far as I know, made him advance pawns. I could never get him to advance anything against me. I kept on getting what I thought were good attacks and then losing heart. Whereas Kasparov and Karpov just thought, this is nonsense, comrade, and beat him. Mostly, though of course he beat them as well in some great games. Right, next game is Botvinnik against Basman from Hastings. You see the screens change. For some reason at the moment when I load, sometimes it loads higher for reasons I don't understand, the chessboard. Anyway, Basman is black. He plays 1e5, which I don't think you could imagine him doing recently. And they play a normal position. I think Kasparov has taken in that position, hasn't he, and said, although I have lousy pawns, I have the initiative. But knight d4 happened. If you knight c6, you can either take an e2 or recapture. They're both fine. So black's got a decent position. Now bishop g5 is possible. h6 takes, rook to there. And you have enough pressure as white to equalise, but you don't have more, I think. I mean, basically black has, you know, you've got pressure against c7 and potentially b7 as well. So although you've got lousy pawns, you're doing fine, but you're not better or anything. This is what happened. I thought he maybe should have induced b6 at some stage, but he never did. Now a very good move, knight g8. Getting the knight to go around. Rook to there, c5. Here he played a move that I'm very impressed by. He realised that knight g6 wouldn't do very much. I mean, f5, g5 would just be a mistake. Knight g6, I don't know, is obviously as possible, but he went g5, which I must say I think is rather a wonderful move. I don't know if you could play bishop f6. If bishop f6 here, I'm imagining that you go king g6, and that's maybe quite good for black. Looks like the right move to me. Or you can take as well rook f8. It gives king g6 is reasonable, yeah. I mean, white then gets the e5 square, but nothing else is very good in his position, and so black is fine. Okay, it's just. So actually what happened was that they got this position. I played some moves. He took back with the bishop, which is good. If you take with the rook, it'll be equal, but taking back with the bishop, you have more winning chances, because you're going to attack white's king. He was hoping Botvinnik, obviously, for queen g7, bishop e5 and a draw at this point. He was offering the young man. Basman was only 20. He'd been world champion until 3 years previously. Basman, of course, his family was Armenian, so I suppose maybe it was a point of honour to continue the work of the great Tigran. Some moves were played. He played g4, and knight f4 I think is good as well. Then he started to advance. And this is really very dangerous because black has all this control of the king side. He has to move rook g7 at some point. They reached move 40, and here, I don't know when they adjourned. I haven't tried to find a bulletin or anything of Hastings. But Botvinnik played f4, giving up a pawn. And the point was, I guess this was probably the sealed move. That's what I'm imagining. And these came off. And this position is still sort of playable-ish for white. Because now his pieces are quite active, and of course black has to land. b7's a bit weak. Okay. He went knight f3 check. He should probably go rook h7. There is one very funny line though. Check. If bishop f4 check here, rook king g3, you must not go knight g6. Why must you not go knight g6, people? I'm sorry, I've got an engine on, haven't I? So, well, it's not going to show you knight g6 because it's such a disastrous move. Let's just go to replay training. So knight g6. If knight g6, what happens? Can you see? He plays rook f5 check and attempts not to fall over laughing. Bishop takes bishop e2 check and bishop takes bishop mate. Not a happy conclusion for black of his great game. Of course, Basman wouldn't have fallen into that. Anyway, Basman returned his pawn. He had to go here now, and he gets the bishops off. Now, I think he should maybe go knight takes d4. The problem now is that white is really very active. And b5 he got in, which is nice, I suppose. It's definitely a bonus. But the problem is that there are... Okay, maybe you should just have taken a draw here. Here went b4. Still no danger, actually. Rook checks. White can also play king e6, takes king to there. But actually, he's not really playing for a win. I thought as he's starting to have chances of winning, and no, he's not really after king e8. But I'd be getting a bit nervous as black, because although I'm 3 pawns up, I'm quite close to being checkmated. I suppose as long as the knight stays on the square d4, you don't have a white square for your king, and bishop takes knight is going to be a losing attempt rather than a winning attempt. Anyway, Botvinnik made his draw, and he was then very complimentary about Basman, said what a good player he was. I haven't got the exact quote. So, that was that game. So then I'm going to show you my 6 games I played against Michael Basman. I did also play him sometimes in the King's Head tournament. David Nord's King's Head tournament, Blitz games. And basically what happened was normally he outplayed me. He played some outrageous opening. I got a bit overexcited. He got the advantage and then I swindled him. Because my swindle mode was pretty unpleasant at, well, was good enough at Blitz. But I mean, he did outplay me. He's a really good player, and his eccentric openings they had some point. Anyway, these are the 6 games. The first one in 1972, so he's still playing normal openings. This was my first ever game in the British Championship, and I'll show you quickly. I played the Alekines at the time. I played bishop d7, and he decided to whop a pawn off, which was a bit... He could just go castles, knight takes knight, bishop c6 and be about equal, or d4 maybe. Or he could just take on d5 and castle and I'll play c6 and it'll be about an equal position. What he actually did was take this pawn. Of course I went there, obviously. I mean, you know, it's just clear. You're going to give him some pawns if you can stop him castling, especially when I was still 15. There was no question, I think. d4. He couldn't take the rook because then I get a knight e5 and I win. Now rook moves knight e5, but now he maybe is threatened to take the rook, so I hit him. I went there. Knight f4. I don't know, I can play a rook checks, can't I? Actually, I talked some complete crap to somebody. Knight f4, rook checks. I thought rook checks, bishop b3, and then you can maybe hide the king on d2 on a very good day with a following wind. I'll probably go bishop takes knight and then take him b2 or something. And his position is pretty wrecked. He went there anyway. Check, bishop b3, bishop f5. Now he played a very odd move. I don't know why he did that. I don't know why, if he's going to do something like that, why doesn't he go h4? But maybe I'm in time to go rook b2. I mean, I think this is a bit slightly odd, going g4 at this moment. He must have had a reason. I suppose he wanted to check whether I was going to go bishop b4 or bishop g6. And I'm just developing my pieces, saying, well, I'm 2 pawns down, but are you happy? And clearly you're not very happy at this point. Maybe you should play pawn takes knight, rook takes queen, rook takes rook here. That would be losing. Pawn takes knight, rook takes queen, pawn takes queen, rook takes rook, I think would be worse. That would be really lost. That feels to me more lost than playing with the pieces against the queen. He went there, I went in, I took, and here I should really have gone, no, queen e6, rook to there, a bit desperate. Here I really should have gone rook takes pawn check, I think. I went h6. I have this habit, if I have a very good position, of letting my opponent play a move so that they can suffer. And h6 isn't a bad move, but I think rook takes pawn check is better. Let's just see. Do we give rook takes pawn check here? There. That's pretty decisive, isn't it? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I mean, he's got every chance. I know you can get bishop b4 here. Takes, rook takes d3, just g6. And, well, I'm going to reach some rook ending about 2 to 3 pawns up, aren't I? So let's not be unhappy with that. Or 2 pawns up, maybe. Okay, but I went h6. Where are we? Sorry. He took and gave up the exchange, and he gets some chances, but of course, with decent play, this isn't going to work. I think I'd go rook d3 nowadays. I actually went there, but still I've got my rooks are very good. He went king e2, he went check and king e2, I'm not sure why he checked. I suppose he thought my king was worse. And here he lost on time. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to advance my king, and maybe on a very, well, if he's lucky, he will manage to get a passed pawn on the queen side, by which time my king will be deep in his guts. And then I will start queening pawns on the king side, and maybe I might have to give up my rook for a passed pawn, by which time I'll queen a pawn on the king side. It's completely winning anyway. So that was my first game with him, and that went well for me. But the next one is the famous Borg. You see again the diagram for some reason is, let's just try loading it again. Still, there we are, now it's loaded properly. So, this is against the Borg. I probably expected 1a6 actually, but he played g5. h4, probably not a bad move, but, well, he has already excited me. And the engine just says knight f3, pawn takes pawn, c4, splat, basically. Just thinks my position is wonderful. I went there, so I got overexcited, and I offered the exchange, and of course he doesn't take it yet. It would be ridiculous. So now I played knight c3. I think I should just move my rook. He took bishop b4. So he's already managed to get me much too excited. And I played a3. I mean, there's a problem. If I castle, he can take and play bishop g4, I think. I can't take him b7 because of rook a7. And so we get some position which is playable for everybody. I don't know if bishop b2 was a last move as well, maybe. And I castle. And obviously I've got decent play for the exchange. I've got a pawn, I've got the 2 bishops, and his pawn structure's a bit dirty, but it's certainly good for not bad for him. Knight e7's a good move, getting his knight to a better square. Now his plan is to play h5, h4, h3 to smash up my kingside pawns. I think queen b4 may be better. Queen c6 is a good move. King b1, h5. Perhaps I should play b3 here. I mean, it gets very complicated. Here, here, here. Queen b6 first, yes. Sorry. And I go here. Now he goes h3. Now I have to do something like this. And the game continues. And it's complicated, you know. I think it's supposed to be okay for me, but I'd have been a bit scared with all these bishops on prise, that pawn on the 7th. What actually happened was we played some moves and he got in bishop c4, at which point I don't have the 2 bishops anymore. d5 is a bit desperate. He took it. I suppose I don't know if I saw he could take it. Queen to here. And I played bishop b3. And I say very clever, but wrong. He didn't need to do that. He could just have gone king b8 or something. Very clever, but a bad blunder. And I'm going to put a diagram here, actually. Because unfortunately I can take this, which I did not see, and then play this move. And nothing works for black, and he is lost. Which would have been, I think, unjust after what he'd done to me already, but there we are. Chess isn't always just. At best, he gets a rook against 2 bishops, and I ought to be able to clean up eventually. I'd have to do a little bit of work. He'll try to do something to me, but he won't manage. And eventually I should win. So that would have been, but I believed him. I went there, rook to there. I can't go queen a7 because the rook takes bishop. And he just wins. I'm winning all my pieces. And the rest was pretty grim for the player of the white pieces. Good move. Takes, check doesn't help, of course. If check here, resigns. Well, yeah, more or less resigns. Yeah, probably does resign. So I managed to fight on a little bit. And, okay, I should have gone rook h7 here. Rook f5 is worse. Because now I get this pawn, but he gets his king to there, and that is the end of the game. Beautiful, his king on that square. Okay, I can't go rook takes pawn because of rook g1 and rook b2 check. And he just calmly played some moves. I can't take because of, I'm almost in Zugzwang, rook away. Rook to there, taking the c file. I mean, what he didn't want to do was to play a5 when I could play rook takes b6. He just went there, and that was that. I can't take on b6 because of rook h1. Otherwise, he's going to play b4, probably, and recapture, even with the pawn, actually. Can he do that? Maybe if he does that, it's a little bit complicated. Maybe he just takes back with the king and slowly advances, and obviously he wins easily. Or he can even go rook h1, rook checks, king c4, obviously not king a4. b3 mate, and I think that'll be enough to just win outright. Because, yeah, I think he just wins my bishop, doesn't he? Or exchanges off a pair of rooks. Anyway, nice game by him. Very nice game. Very famous. The Borg beats me. Actually, I saw another... Did I see, was it in Chess Space that they had the Borg beating John Nunn as well? Somewhere I saw it beating John Nunn as well, though John Nunn was winning until about a move before. Then we go to the next one, which is that this one, provocation did not work in this case. So I played d5. I thought, well, I'll get a good attack for the pawn. He went a6. I went a4. Now he did take his pawn, and he has got a square for his rook, but I just castle. So the question is what you play in this position. And there's just one move that screams out to me, because why would I do anything else? I just played rook a3, at which point I've got my 5th piece in the attack. Because every piece except for the rook and f1 is now in the attack. The bishop and c1 is sort of aimed at the king as well. So I have 5 pieces attacking him. He castled, which he can't have been happy about. As I said, he didn't like being attacked. Not sure if that's the best move. Bishop h4 would have been a good idea, better than this. I can go queen h5, f5, rook h3, and it's very good for me, but it might simplify a bit. I might end up just a pawn up or something. That's a bad idea. And he should have taken and played rook f7, because now I do this and he has to take anyway. And I'm just killing him. I mean, I've just got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces attacking. He's got 2.5 pieces defending. His rook and his knight are not working. So now I'm threatening knight f6 check. I'm also threatening rook takes bishop and knight f6 check, and he resigned. So that was a slaughter. And with some probably revenge. I don't know if I thought of it as revenge for the Borg. I mean, I admire the fact he can play the Borg and get away with it. But obviously, it's nice as well when things go well for you. Anyway, so that was that one. And then I lost one to him in another British Championship. Let's load it again. I don't know why it's doing this bloody silly thing. So this is the most normal game we played after the early ones. We just get a normal IQP position. This is the IQP position. I was telling people there's a famous game, Keane against Miles, very famous game, where Keane checkmated Tony, or Ray checkmated Tony in an IQP with lots of sacrifices. Knight c3 probably isn't a great move. The normal moves are bishop f6 or knight f6. Now h4, I don't know if bishop e8 was a very good idea. He can't take on h4 now, because takes bishop d6 wins the exchange for nothing very much. If knight e7, I start playing moves like rook e4 and things. It's not at all nice. So he went there, and now I get knight g5, and I go queen f3, and obviously I have a mating attack at this point, really. I think I probably wanted to go h5, g5, and taken g6, but it doesn't work. However, if I go back, and now I've got this one, then this should win fairly convincingly, I think. Not very happy about my horse, but everything else about the position is tremendous. I went queen g3, which is probably more controlled. I don't know if I was threatening h5, g5, knight g5, I imagine. Very close to it anyway. So I got to play this, for God's sake. The engine actually wants me to play rook d5 and bishop f5. Just says I'm winning, and doesn't think this is remotely interesting because h6 is dropping off as well. The thing is, I always think, can he defend by giving up the queen? But here, really not, because I'm attacking as well. If I'm attacking with the queen, then it's not really. Anyway, I went there. And so this little switchback, I've got his queen out of the way. And I started sacrificing, which actually is quite sound. He takes. And here I should go queen g5, which is still very good, apparently. Basically because he can't, because I've got control of f6. And I can tee up to kill him in a little while. But I blundered. I played it here and bishop to there, check and there. And suddenly it is black who has the advantage. And yeah, now he killed me. Well done him. He was very efficient. Rook d8, good move. Excellent move. I went rook c4, which is completely desperate. There's nothing else to do, really. And he just gives up his queen for my rook. And he has 2 rooks and a bishop. I hardly have any checks. I have no checks at the moment. And the game is over very, very soon thereafter. He just took nothing clever. Just very, very clean finish. Mr. King h7 resigns. Very good, clean finish by Basman. A nice game. I'm impressed, I think. What a very strong player. Has completely splattered me after a ridiculous opening. Well done, I think. I do think that, actually. It's what happens sometimes. Bad luck. So that was great. Well done him. But then the next time we played in Eastbourne, By then he'd gravitated to playing h3 and a3, and this did not go well for him. This was a pretty awful game. This is sort of the most one-sided in some ways. Well, no, there's the b6 game. So I did end up with a tiny plus score against him, but of course he beat me with these brilliant openings. I was always very wary of him because I knew that. So I've just said, all right, you played a3 and h3, so what? And I'm developing my pieces. Knight c3 isn't a great move at all. c5 and f5 is also possible. And actually he could play queen a4 here, as the engine's just told me, and get in b4 and be okay, which is a bit annoying. I don't think I knew that. Maybe I did a long time ago, but I got this in. And now what's happened? I mean, that's not happy, but if he takes knight takes, I have d4 to run to. I have control of c5. He just has a very bad position. I have a sand pawn structure, beautiful knight. He's really got nothing to do. King h2 isn't very happy, bishop b6. He can't take at the moment because of queen c7. I just play f6. And he went there. He wants to attack he needs to defend his e-pawn, actually. Queen c7. If he goes bishop c2, I'm going to play queen a5, get the queens off, put my king on e7, bring my rooks back, exchange everybody, maybe take on c4 at some point if I feel like it. And he's going to lose. I mean, he's just not going to have a chance in hell in this position, really. It's going to be absolutely awful. So he didn't go bishop c2. He went knight there, and I went queen a5, queen to there, and castled. And now I just swapped all the pieces because he's got such a bad pawn structure that why would I try to do anything clever? I don't know, knight b3. I suppose that's to stop knight d2. He quite rightly played c5. The engines go harumph. How can you give the man a pawn? But if you don't give the man a pawn, you're going to lose, so you have to try to do this. b5's a good move, connecting everybody. I can afford that with my position so compact. I thought queen a5 might be better, but actually I just go knight b7. Check. King there. And his knight's on prise, and I'm going to start taking everybody. So this is hopeless as well. Okay, he went queen to there, knight to there, here. It's all so easy. I mean, all I'm doing is, I guess he should have tried b4 at this point. But I mean, it's not going to help very much, is it? b4 takes. Actually, he can't, can he? Because if knight takes, I nick this one. So he can't, no. So poor man. I mean, I just put my pieces in good squares and went knight a4, and he resigned. Because queen a5, king b7 in no way helps him. If he goes into a knight ending, then I queen a b pawn very quickly. His king's 3,000 miles away from the pawn. So that was a bad game by him. But the thing is, I wasn't provoked in this one. In the previous ones where he won, in e4 g5, I was provoked to move 3. In the IQP game, eventually I sacrificed because I couldn't stop myself, a bit like Ulf. But in this one, I just played sensible moves, and he tried provoking me and carried on trying to provoke me. I'm going to load this again. It annoys me having the screen wrong. And this one, he played 1b4, which is a very relatively normal move. This was at the end of a rapid play, so we were both knackered, I think. f4, I don't know, it's all right. We played very sensible moves, so it's almost just a normal position, this really. Once I get in bishop f6, it's going to be quite okay. He can play knight e5, but I play bishop f6 because knight takes knight, bishop takes bishop is perfectly good for me. I got the advantage now. This is very nice. Here I played bishop c3, which is a good move actually. And here I should have played knight f5, as the engine points out. Because after he takes, I take here. And the big deal is that if he's got no square for his queen at all, which is remotely sensible. Because if he goes here, I play knight f4 and laugh uproariously, because that's the end of that. So I've got queen g5 happening, obviously. So that is the end of the universe as we speak. And given he can't do that, I suppose he can go to the beautiful square a2. And then I will play probably knight f4 first, I suppose. No, then bishop h6. So I'll just play, I don't know, queen takes that. and ask him if he's happy with my doubled knights from the 6th rank, which I don't think he will be terribly. Obviously this is completely lost. I don't know if I had to take that. I'd prefer to do something cleaner than taking the bishop, but I think I can't go knight takes because of bishop h6, which is sad. So yeah, I would just take it. Do we take with the king, or do we take... If we take with the king, then queen a7 is a bloody nuisance, so we take... It might even be good for him, actually. So we go there. I suppose he goes... There's no point moving his rook. He goes there or something. And we probably take a rook and go knight takes f4 or something. He has got knight takes f7. Let's take a rook. He might have a knight f7, and we could move the rook. And obviously I'm completely winning anyway. I mean, there's no question about this. If I ask the engine, it's going to say minus rather a lot, I'd say. Minus 3.25. Knight takes f1. Knight takes f7, I suppose. Queen c5 check. Oh my god, yes. All right. So that would have won, but in fact, I just played rook e8 as you do in a rapid played game, and now he's fighting a bit. That's annoying. Assume rook f7, something bad happens to him at the end. Rook f7 takes, knight checks, king somewhere, knight takes rook, queen e1 check. King up, queen takes e3, and I've probably got a winning attack. Looks like I have. Let's just have a look at that. Rook takes this. Rook a8, it says, exclam. God, all right. Didn't see that. No, I went rook a8. I should just have gone takes, queen h5, queen to there, takes. And basically he doesn't get anything very much. Queen d4, I'll go rook f8. And he's going to have a pretty big problem. Rook to there, check. He can try queen d4, I think. That looks like a better move. And then probably even queen c5 is good, is it? Queen c5 is going to be a very good rook ending. Because I'm going to win this pawn, and that's going to be... his pawns are a bit broken. Okay, queen d4 is better. But I went rook a8, and he now starts to fight quite well. Queen to there... I thought I was doing bad things after rook c8. Maybe I'd missed c4. And eventually I bailed out. And this is okay, because he could have gone h4 as well. I could have gone rook e2 in this position, actually, if I want to. It's quite a good idea as well. e4 and then go here, because then I've messed his pawns up a bit. Because now I'm going to go rook f3 and hit his pawn further away. I'll start taking pawns when his king goes to d2, if he tries to walk his king over. Anyway, we played a few more moves, and I drew without much difficulty. He made a draw now. I think he was quite short of time. So, those were my 6 proper games. This is a rapid play. The others were proper games with Michael Basman, who was a legend, really. I mean, very few players, nobody... much stronger players will have failed to could he have gone? Can he go rook b8 in this position? I'm just wondering. Rook b8, king takes e4, b7 here, e4. Oh, what do I do in this position? I go king f5, of course, sorry. That's what I do, excuse me. Because king to there. So actually that I must have known that. I'm sure I knew that in the game. And nothing really happens. I just put my king in g7. Is that all right? e4, king to here, e5, king to there. Try to bring the king up to... I suppose when he brings the king up, then nothing happens. King to here, king to here, rook to there. Oh, rook e5 check. Sorry, that's not good. So king d3. Let's promote variation. King to here, to here, king to here. Oh, I know what happens. I can just go here, 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 here and then play this move. King g4 and nothing happens. King h7. And I'm fine. Because he can't take. Because then I take an e5. So it is a draw. Okay. So anyway, there we are. Those were my games. I hope you've enjoyed them. They were tremendous battles. And I said he was very, very few players have contributed in the way that he has to opening theory, you know, and to the theory of chess, to what is possible and what isn't. So he was a wonderful chess player and is missed, will be missed. Okay, I'm stopping now. I hope you've enjoyed this. Oh God. Sorry, messing around.